first time that I actually heard De La Soul was not in Maceo's house. Shout out to Maceo. It was at a guy named Paul's house who knew Paul Houston. And Paul Houston was coaching on De La Soul. And at first it was just like a session in the basement, like when this part of the record drops, boom, we do it like this. And they just kept going. And I remember one night sitting there for like an hour and they kept going over the same line over and over and over. Because it was almost like living into the song, almost being able to synchronize yourself with the melody of how the song is going and really ride with it and take it for what it's worth. And I think that's what gave us the edge a lot of times, because again, if you went to the city at that time, you was like, you know, look, I'm blasting Pat Benatar in my car. It wouldn't have been understand, but you know, the thing is that when you think of even in music and you say something like a great song like Love is a Battlefield, a really great artist can freak Love is a Battlefield. So I think I'm saying all of this to say that it's not only the diversity of the amount of music that we had that we took advantage of, but it's how we lived. And again, when somebody is constantly not giving you that shot because of where you come from, you tend to go harder.
So then you do get this shot from B-Boy Records, which, of course, at the time was having a huge success with Criminal Minded and Boogie Down Productions. And, you know, Ced-Gee was up there, BDP was up there. What, if any, interaction did you have with them prior or right when you were signing to B-Boy Records?
Prior to signing to B-Boy Records, I didn't have any interaction with any of those folks. Remember now, JVC Force was a group from Long Island, and B-Boy, when they signed us for Strong Island, I don't even think they was aware that they were going to get such an anthem. I believe that Strong Island is as much of an anthem as the South Bronx MC Shan song.
The Bridge?
The Bridge, yes. I believe Strong Island is just as much of a respectable anthem as those two songs. But I don't even think that the label understood what they were going to get at that point. We were coming from Long Island, and we were the first group from Long Island to get signed on to a South Bronx label. So we didn't know anybody on that side of town. Some of the first folks that I met going up to that label that really showed me love throughout the years, the first one perhaps was KRS-One, Chris. Chris is the one who always talked to me in the clubs and everything else. He never drank or anything like that. So as you know, the Village days, I would have a Rolling Rock beer or a Mickey's or something. He would have a Sprite and we would talk. He's the first. D-Nice is another one that I talked to a lot because they were in the same posse. Big respects to them. But for the most part, when we got there, remember now, they were on their way out. They were trying to leave.
Well, it's funny.
Scott LaRock wasn't around at the time.
Yeah, they were trying to leave, but it's interesting looking back on it because you said about KRS-One never drinking, because on the back of Doing Damage, the album, it had that little word from our sponsor thing, and it talked about how KRS-One, Scott LaRock didn't drink, didn't do drugs, and they made this hardcore music. And then B-Boy was comparing you guys to Boogie Down Productions because you also were nice guys that just happened to make hardcore music. So how, when, and why do you remember that little paragraph and that thing happening? Did you just see it the first time when you got the album? Did you guys have any input or reaction to that? What was that?
Hey, good question, man. And I'm glad you noticed that and I can address it because back then, no one was familiar with how Long Island made hip hop or why the sound was coming out so strong. They gave us all creative control and left us alone to go ahead and do everything, including taking the picture of the album cover, We did that. We did the recording of it with the help of Charlie Murata. The credits and everything we did. When everything was, and including the logo, right? When everything was turned in, the album got completed. Copies started becoming distributed. You know, we're looking at it, we're admiring it. And then we're seeing all of these names added that we don't even know. And we're realizing that they're on to the fact that, because understand now, this is the Doing Damage album. And they're like, tremendous noise coming from Europe, especially. Red Alert just broke Strong Island, and now he's playing like 2 songs on Doing Damage pre-release. Mr. Magic and Marley Marl and Chili Q, people, they're spinning this thing. It's going down. Chuck Chillout was around there. It's going down. So all of these names were added because this was slated to be, I guess, a popular album. But we didn't know half of those names. And when we asked the question after, how was all of this added if we put the album together? You know, the response at that time was, sometimes you just got to go ahead and make sure you're acknowledging certain people. So the comments about KRS-One and them that appeared on the albums, that wasn't put there by us. KRS-One truly was an artist who, I mean, the dude was nice as hell, but he didn't drink. Like, I offered to buy him a beer one time, and he was like, "Brother, I don't drink." And, you know, he was like, "You can buy me a Sprite." And I certainly did that. But he wasn't drinking, but he always had this tenacity. Like, one thing I always respected about him is anytime I ever walked up to him on the street or even in the club, he was the first person to turn around and say to me, "Hey, the label's not right." He thought enough of us, or maybe a conversation with me to let me know that, hey, I'm leaving and you should too. And one thing I remember specifically him telling me is, "You're a pretty talented writer. You guys are pretty tight. You should try to, you know," but being young, with all the attention coming at you, coming from a place that you've only seen about 2 people get a record deal, Biz Markie and Rakim, you're like, you know, wow, I want my shot. Like, what's going to happen any different for me than what happened for them? So the anxiety enters you into a shady deal. And I think initially that's what KRS-One told me about in the club. I know that's what he told me, but again, I was too young and naive to, you know, really run, you know, give up my opportunity. You know.
Yeah, he's the teacher for a reason, I guess.
Yeah, he's a really good dude.
But I always thought that was interesting because I knew later on, not at the time, of course, that they were leaving or about to leave. So I always wondered if they did that to try to get them to stay, or like, oh, these guys are saying nice things about us, or if it was pure marketing to sell Criminal Minded, or if you guys had a hand. I was always curious about that. But as
we didn't know them well yet, so
right,
you know.
Gotcha. So then, what was you know, Ced-Gee's told me different things, KRS-One's told me different things, but what was your experience going into the office there with B-Boy Records and Rock Candy Music? Was it wild to you? Did you see crazy stuff, or was it just a normal office to you?
No, we never really seen crazy stuff. You know, back then, you know, it was in the Bronx. It was on the Grand Concourse. The buildings were structured like, you know, when you come in to the building, you know, you kind of get buzzed in. Like a typical apartment, maybe like a 1-bedroom apartment. It was set up like, and you kind of go up in there, and then you got to buzz in and walk up the steps. And then when you get up to the top, you're like inside of the, you know, the place. And I guess what would have been like a back bedroom was the president's office, and in the front was everything else. It was kind of like a business, but it looked like it could have been, you know, a house set up, you know, based on how the Bronx is set up. Yeah, we didn't see anything funny up at the label. I think because at the time we didn't have a lot of interaction with them, being the fact that they didn't understand how we were making this music, and they really didn't want to have anything to do with it because it wasn't the typical type of music that they were signing with the drum machines, and we were lighting up samples now. Charlie Murata, one of the first engineers in the game, learned how to loop the actual tape and have it going all around the studio with a pencil, and you know, have the same simple little piece of tape like just looping. And they weren't getting that in the city. Everything was on a drum machine, like a dun, 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 dun. So they weren't much concerned with how we were making this music as long as we kept delivering it. And that's what we were doing. So the thing is every time we went down to the studio, the group was getting more and more popular. So we would pick up things like a couple bags of fan mail and stuff like that, you know, happy to get that because it was exciting. And, you know, come pick up like some records and stuff like that. And, you know, they were like, you know, how you guys doing? How you guys doing? At the time, they were pushing and they were asking for us to come into Europe and stuff like that. So the label was already, you know, let's finish the album and then, you know, we can get you guys out there. So there's a lot of stuff going on, you know, but every time we came in, it was almost like, here comes the money. To me, it was almost like Boogie Down Productions, first and foremost, and then JVC Force at B-Boy became the money for hip hop. You know, so, but they never mistreated us or, you know, did anything crazy in our presence and stuff like that. But I've heard stories about things that's going on, you know.
Be sure to check out the History of Gangster Rap by Soren Baker. He's official.
History of Gangster Rap features exclusive interviews with Ice-T, Snoop Dogg, MC Ren, the D.O.C, and dozens of others. The History of Gangster Rap, a definitive look at how Los Angeles changed rap forever.
In Los Angeles, the streets definitely set the tone of the hip-hop music.
At 19, I got a $50,000 car.
My whole angle always was, I'll be street, but I will always tell you the horrors that go along with this life.
It would be penalties and casualties for just wearing the wrong color in somebody's neighborhood.
And once gangster rap made it from the streets to the TV, the genre exploded.
With Fab 5 on Yo MTV Raps with NWA.
Yo MTV, it just catapulted us from being local heroes to national gangbang rappers.
The History of Gangster Rap discusses it all from 1980 up till today.
It's always gonna be shit happening in the streets. You know what I mean? So it's always gonna be something to talk about.
The History of Gangster Rap in stores now.